Hi, my friends. Today I want to present you a new story. Enjoy watching it.
My name is Amelia Daniels and I am 27 years old. I had imagined my Chester brothers' wedding differently, a day of warmth, laughter, and shared pride. Instead, as I stepped into the glittering hall of the Everwood Hotel, I felt a cold dread crawl beneath my skin. Chandeliers glistened like frozen tears, and the air hummed with champagne laughter that wasn't meant for me. Amelia. Chester's voice cut through the crowd, sharp as glass. My heart leaped with sisterly affection until I saw his grin. "Everyone," he announced, drawing the attention of 100 glittering eyes, "meet my dear sister, still single, still searching." Poor Amelia, no one's been brave enough to take her. She's even cute in her own way. Laughter erupted. My stomach turned. I froze beneath their eyes, mocking, pitiful, entertained. A woman at the next table whispered too loudly, "She's actually quite pretty," in dim lighting. Another snickered. Chester leaned closer, his cologne suffocating. "Don't take it personally, sis. It's just a joke." "A joke?" I whispered, blinking fast to keep the tears from spilling. "Humiliation isn't a joke, Chester." He shrugged, already turning back to his laughing guests. I stared at the table card before me, table 12, singles and leftovers. My name printed beneath in cursive mockery. Around me sat people who barely looked up. An elderly uncle, a bored teen, and a woman on her 5th glass of wine. I smiled tightly and lifted my glass, hoping the bubbles could drown my shame. But every burst of laughter from the main table stabbed deeper. Chester's wife, Clarissa, watched me with polite amusement, like I was part of the entertainment. I wanted to leave. But leaving would mean giving him what he wanted, proof that I was fragile. So I sat frozen until I felt a movement beside me. A chair slid out. "Mind if I join you?" I turned. A tall man in a dark suit smiled, eyes steady and kind. "Looks like this seat needs rescuing," he murmured, extending a hand. "I'm Philip." Before I could answer, Chester's booming laugh echoed again. "Ah, Amelia's got company. Careful, Philip. She might trap you into marriage before dessert." Philip's hand tightened reassuringly around mine. His voice dropped low. "Act like you're with me." In that instant, the air changed. Heads turned, whispers shifted. The laughter faltered. For the first time that evening, I wasn't invisible. I was someone worth noticing. And though my heart still trembled, something fierce flickered inside me. Maybe this night wasn't over yet. For a moment, I could hardly breathe. Philip's hand rested gently over mine, steadying the storm that raged in my chest. His touch wasn't presumptuous. It was protective, grounding, as if he understood the humiliation I'd just endured. "Smile," he whispered softly, his lips barely moving. "Let them see you're not broken." I lifted my chin and forced a smile. Across the room, Chester's laughter faltered. "Good, let him wonder." Philip turned to me with a warm grin that seemed so effortlessly real. Even I almost believed it. Sylvie said, loud enough for nearby guests to hear, "How's my favorite person in the world doing tonight?" The words were light, teasing, but the effect was electric. Conversations paused. Curious eyes flicked toward us. Someone whispered, "Her boyfriend's handsome." Another murmured, "Maybe Chester exaggerated." Chester's jaw tightened. I saw it. That small, satisfying crack in his perfect mask. Leaning closer, I whispered, "Why are you doing this?" He met my gaze with quiet intensity. "Because no one deserves to be treated that way." The sincerity in his voice undid me. My throat burned, tears threatened again. But this time from gratitude, not shame. Dinner arrived, silver platters gleaming. Philip poured me wine, spoke to me as though I were the only person in that glittering hall. He made me laugh, really laugh, for the first time that evening. Every word, every glance, chipped away at the humiliation that had clung to me like smoke. When the music started, he rose and offered his hand. "Dance with me?" I hesitated. Chester watched from across the room, fury simmering behind his smile. Philip whispered, "Let's give them something to talk about." And as I took his hand and stepped into the light, I felt the first spark of something I hadn't known in years. Vindication wrapped in the beginning of something dangerously close to hope. The orchestra's melody swelled, and for the first time that evening, I wasn't Amelia, the pitied sister, but a woman who mattered. Philip guided me effortlessly across the dance floor. His movements were confident, his smile unshakable. I could feel Chester's glare burn through the crowd like acid, yet for once, I didn't care. "Relax," Philip whispered near my ear. "You're doing great." I smiled though my pulse raced. "You're surprisingly good at pretending." He chuckled. "Maybe it's not all pretending." That single line sent a tremor through me. When the song ended, polite applause followed. Chester stood, clinking his glass to draw attention. "Ladies and gentlemen," he called, his grin too wide, "let's toast to family, especially my dear sister, who finally found a man patient enough to tolerate her moods." Laughter rippled again, but this time it was weaker, uncertain. Philip set down his glass and turned to him calmly. "I'm not sure what's funny, Chester," he said, his tone cutting through the noise like a blade. "But insulting your own sister in front of strangers, well, that's not something to toast." The hall fell silent. Chester's smirk stiffened. "It's just banter." "Then maybe learn when banter becomes cruelty," Philip replied. A murmur spread through the tables. Even Clarissa shifted uncomfortably. I stood frozen, torn between pride and disbelief. No one had ever defended me like that, not once in my life. Chester's voice trembled as he forced a laugh. "Seems my sister's found herself quite the knight." Philip looked him straight in the eye. "No, she just deserves basic respect." Applause broke out from a few corners. Chester's face paled, his mask of charm cracking into something raw, resentful. I swallowed hard, tears pricking my eyes. For the first time, Chester couldn't twist the narrative. His cruelty had been exposed under the chandeliers for everyone to see, and as Philip reached for my hand again, I realized something irreversible had begun. My brother had declared war, and I was no longer afraid to fight back. After Philip's words cut through the air like lightning, the atmosphere in the hall shifted. Whispers rippled between tables. The once proud smirk on Chester's face melted into something ugly and uncertain. I should have felt pity, but I didn't. For years he had mocked me, belittled me, and turned my insecurities into his entertainment. Tonight, justice finally had a voice. As the evening carried on, Philip and I stayed side by side. He didn't leave my side for a moment. When guests approached, he introduced me proudly, "My Amelia." The phrase rolled from his tongue so naturally that my heart stuttered every time. Clarissa, Chester's wife, approached us later, her painted smile trembling. "You two seem close," she said, glancing nervously at her husband, who was sulking near the bar. Philip grinned. "We are. And Amelia's even more beautiful up close, isn't she?" Clarissa blinked, speechless. Chester overheard, his glass slamming onto the counter. "Enough of this charade," he snapped. "You don't even know her, Philip." Philip's reply was calm, deadly precise. "Maybe not yet. But even in one evening, I've seen more worth in her than you ever have." A murmur of approval swept the crowd. Someone clapped. Chester's face reddened, his pride unraveling before everyone who once admired him. I turned toward him, my voice trembling but firm. "You tried to make me the joke of your wedding, Chester. But tonight, you showed everyone who the real fool is." For once, he had no comeback. Philip took my hand again, and we left the hall together under a rain of whispers and sidelong glances. As we stepped into the cool night air, I finally let the tears fall, tears of release, of power reclaimed. That night, beneath the silver glow of the streetlights, humiliation turned into triumph. And I silently promised myself I would never bow to cruelty again. Months passed, yet that night lingered like a melody I couldn't forget. Philip and I began meeting for coffee, for walks by the river, for moments that stretched into something tender and real. What began as a rescue turned into a love story written in quiet glances and shared laughter. When he asked me to move in with him, I said yes without hesitation. For the first time in my life, I wasn't living in someone's shadow. I was standing in my own light. Our wedding was small, intimate, filled with genuine smiles instead of sharp laughter. Chester was there, uninvited but curious. He stood at the back, watching as Philip slipped a ring onto my finger, his expression unreadable. After the ceremony, he approached me quietly. "You really love him?" he asked, voice low. I met his eyes. "Yes, and you should thank yourself, you led him to me." For once, Chester said nothing. He simply turned away, shoulders heavy with regret. As Philip wrapped his arms around me, I whispered to myself, the cruelest night of my life became the doorway to everything I ever wanted. Sometimes fate doesn't punish, it corrects.
Friends, what do you think of this story? Write your opinion in the comments. Would you like more stories? Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell button so you don't miss any videos. See you tomorrow.